Hi, this is Charlene Chamberlain for Front Row. I bet you thought that was the Beatles. Well, it's not. It's the fabulous Fab Four, and they're going to be here at the Scottish Rite Auditorium in Collingswood on February 9th, which is exactly 50 years to the date that the Beatles arrived in the United States and performed on the Ed Sullivan Show. Prior to the concert, we're also hosting a VIP party with rock and roll archivist George Manny, who will be sharing pieces of his memorabilia collection. I hope you'll join us. For information and tickets, log on to brepresents.com. My guest today is Judith Kristen. She's an educator, an author, an artist, and the #1 Beatles fan. Welcome, Judith.
Hi, it's very nice to be here.
Judy came down with a bad case of Beatlemania and spent 8 days a week working on a plan to meet her idol, George Harrison. She's here today to tell us all about it, and she's also here to talk about her brand new book, A Date with a Beatle. How did this come about?
This is a crazy story. You know, I have to say again about the #1 Beatle fan thing. In every billion of the number of Beatle fans, the billions of Beatle fans that are out there, we're all like the #1 fan. So, you know, I'm like 1 out of a billion, but it sure was a trip. This book was taken from the diaries of my teenage life at 15 and 16. So it's very accurate, it's very interesting, and it was also something I actually didn't think I was going to write. My girlfriend Patty, who's in chapter 17, Patty said to me, you know, I realize you still think you're 15 years old. I said, what are you trying to tell me, that I'm not still 15? What are you saying here? And she said, but I just want you to realize that there's 15-year-olds out there who don't, you know about the frenzy. They don't know what the Beatlemania was like. They don't know that. How many times did you write Judy Harrison, Mrs. George Harrison, Judy and George Harrison, right? You know, how many times you practice autographing that? And they don't really understand. They know the music, they know the films, but they don't know why 50 years later we're celebrating this and not celebrating Elvis and not celebrating the Rolling Stones and not what was it. So she said, you have to put it in print. And I said, but I've told you. Every time we go to a party, somebody will say, tell my friend when you cut school to see them land at Kennedy.
Tell your Beatles story.
Tell your Beatles story. When you're at the Plaza Hotel, when the cops kicked you out. Tell them about when you were at the Washington, D.C. concert. So I've told thousands of people, and she said, but put it in a book. It'll be something that'll outlast us. It'll keep that part of it alive. So it's not just films and albums, you know. So I did, and it was the easiest thing I ever wrote. It took me like 5 days.
5 days to write this book?
Yeah, but I told the story so many times, it was a piece of cake. And then when I had to remember something, all I had to do was go back to a composition book from 1964, you know, and go, oh, that's right, that's what happened. Yeah, okay.
I can't believe that you actually saved your journals and you have them from that far back. That's pretty amazing.
I have my first journal that I ever started in Mrs. Fox's class in 2B at Henry R. Edmonds School in 19...
Whatever. Okay,
yes,
we don't
whatever.
have to say.
Oh, well, I'm 65. Okay. I really don't care. I'm just happy to be here. You know? Yeah.
So it took 5 days to write this book.
And 5,000 years to live it. And worth every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I just have to say about the book, I did read the book. I finished it over the weekend. And to describe you, you're tenacious, you're gutsy, you're determined, and you're fearless. And that really came across in this, in your journal.
Well, you know,
it's pretty amazing. You just would do anything to meet George Harrison.
Well, I was 15, so it was almost anything.
Right.
Had I been 25, it might have been different story.
And you didn't really think of the consequences. You just went for it.
Mediocrity sucks.
Yeah.
And I wasn't one of those girls who wanted to stand outside the Plaza Hotel with, you know, a big sign that said,
"I love you, George."
Exactly. Or, you know, carry Beatle albums and hoping that they would come out and sign it. I didn't even carry a pocketbook when I went. My mother made me a little, you know, kind of like string purse that I stuck inside my shirt that had my school tokens and my ID and all the rest of that kind of stuff. So I was hands-free. You know, I had, I didn't want to And never a camera. First of all, when somebody said, how come you didn't take pictures? You should have loads of pictures. These are from kids that are used to taking 500 pictures, cell phone pictures during the week.
Right.
And most of us didn't even have our own special little brownie camera, which was a nice birthday or Christmas present. But we had one family camera, and you weren't allowed to take that out of the house. And who would want to take it anyway and lose it and have your parents like ground you until you were 48 years old?
Right, and the other thing is, we had transistor radios.
Yeah, oh, I love my transistor.
Right.
I had one that was very similar to the one that I saw later on that Paul had.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, it was a Pepsi one. I loved it. Listen to Cousin Bruce and Highlight. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would love for you to tell the story about how you actually got to the hotel. I think, was it in Atlantic City, by sending out all of those letters?
The reservations.
Yes.
Well, here was the thing. I thought, really, that's probably, I don't know how much it would interest anybody else, but when I look back on it and when I think, oof, blonde hair day, how many of them do I have? Ugh, we didn't want to go there.
Right.
And I think, oh, you dits and all that kind of stuff. And I look back and think, I was 15 years old.
And
I devised, what love won't do,
very
right?
Clever.
So you would get 16 magazine. You know, it would come out in January or February, and you would see their summer tour schedule. Mm-hmm. And it would say, you know, September 2nd, Philadelphia, August 30th, Atlantic City, you know, whatever the places happened to be. And so you knew what day they were going to be where. You just didn't know where they were going to stay. That was the problem. Mm-hmm. And by the time Cousin Bruce said, cousins, they're at the Delmonico, or Highlight would say, they're at the Lafayette Motor Inn on North Carolina Avenue in Atlantic City. It was too late.
Sure.
You couldn't make reservations, and even if you could, you were a kid and nobody would let you in. So my idea was, after seeing how difficult it was for me to get in, well, I kind of finessed my way into the
into
Plaza,
a lot of things.
into the Plaza Hotel, and I was unfinessed by the police.
Yes, I know. But we don't want to give all that away.
We don't want to give that away.
No.
But anyway, so I got booted, you know,
right.
Well, again. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I just thought the only thing between me and the Beatles was a reservation in that hotel.
Right.
So then I got the idea that if I could get phone books, Yellow Pages, because I knew I would go to New York, and I knew I would, because close by, you know.
Yes, sure.
I would go to New York City, I would go to Atlantic City, and I would go to Philadelphia. So I got Yellow Pages from all of those cities. Even then, New York City Yellow Pages, like this, like 12 volumes of War and Peace.
Yes.
Oh, my God. So I got those phone books, and I knew that Brian, who put his boys in the Plaza Hotel.
We're talking about Brian Epstein.
Brian Epstein, their manager. I knew that Brian would not put them on their summer tour in like Harry's Hoboken Haven. Do you know what I'm saying? That he would do the St. Regis or the Warwick or the Delmonico or something.
Or the Plaza.
Or the Plaza again. So I looked for, you know,
the high-end hotels.
I looked for the high-end jobs. And my girlfriend and I sent, you know, a request that said, my sister and I will be attending a family reunion on this date, in 1964,
right.
And we would like a reservation for your hotel. Please send our confirmed reservation to Judith Reed, 1120 Wakeling Street, Philadelphia 24, before zip codes, PA, right. You know, and then put my phone number, Cumberland 8, 9809,
yes.
You know. So my dad gave me, he had just bought his first big official file thing, and he gave me the old accordion file that he had. So when 597 reservations went in.
597 letters you sent out?
Indeed.
Oh,
and it was on my dad's old Smith Corona and by hand. Nightmare. But it was worth it. It was so, it was worth it, you know.
It was.
So we sent out 597 reservations, and they all came back because you didn't need credit cards then.
No. And this was just to figure out what hotel they were staying in.
Yeah, because so when the Delmonico came in, it went in the D's. When the Algonquin came in, it went in the A's, you know, and stuff.
Right.
And then the day before, you know,
it was released.
When you listen to WABC, and the day before they were going to be in New York City, Cousin Bruce would say, cousins, they're at the Delmonico. And I go, oh, Lord, please, A, B, C, D. And you go going through all the D's.
We have a reservation.
We have a winner. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus, you know. So I also happened to have the Delmonico. We had the North Carolina Avenue. Oh, the Lafayette Motor Inn.
Yes.
So we got in.
Right.
And I mean, they were a little reluctant to let us in, but
you had a reservation. You were paying guests, so yeah.
And of course, I wasn't wearing my 50 I Love George Harrison buttons.
No.
And I didn't have my sweatshirt on with said, yeah, 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 or anything like that. So we went in looking like nerdy students.
Right.
And when they questioned me, my thing was, please don't put me in with this crowd. Really, I mean, I think they're really nice. I like the group, but we're Beach Boy fans.
Right.
You know, it was like, I'm a Beach Boy fan, like Surf's Up, where in the Delaware River, with waves this big. Yeah, Surf's Up. Hello. You know.
The other thing that I thought was really kind of funny is that you were really a chameleon, because you would go to these concerts as regular schoolgirl Judy, and then you'd go back to the hotel and do a complete transformation. Black eyeliner, blonde beehive, and mini dress.
Exactly. It was that Ronette kind of thing. And the only reason, I mean, I heard George had a crush on Estelle Bennett. What was not to have a crush? Estelle was hot. But I mean, you know, I wasn't as supersized as I am now, but still I was 5 feet, almost 9 inches tall, blonde, Scandinavian. I'm a Viking, you know, and the Ronettes were these tiny, tiny little Puerto Rican girls. So, you know, there was not a chance in hell that I was going to look like a tiny little Puerto Rican girl, but I thought, I'm going to beehive myself. I am going to cat eye myself, and I'll be a big blonde Ronette. That's what I'll be.
That's it.
So it took an awful long time to perfect that. I'll give it to you, Ronnie, Estelle, and Nedra, you know. I mean, they could work it. And so with some probably 200 attempts at Egyptian eyeliner, I got it right. You know, it was only 200.
I still can't get it right.
Oh, good hell. I would never want to do it again. I'd be 73 before I could master it again. But anyway, it was, everything was fun. Yeah, everything was fun. And I met wonderful friends. I have friends like my friend Patty. Patty and I have been friends. We're celebrating our 50th year of friendship this year.
Great.
So, and then on top of that, I mean, my God, there's 4 handsome guys with this beautiful accent and shaggy hair in an otherwise sea of leftover greasers and crew cuts with Madras shirts.
Right.
Forget about it, you know. I mean, I just, you know. It was Liverpool for me and a billion other girls all the way.
It certainly was.
It was so much fun to write. It was great fun to relive it. I have a copy of this by my nightstand, and if ever I'm having a really bad day, I just crack it open to one page and pew, I'm back there and I'm 15 all over again. It's cheaper than therapy.
Judith has also written another book called Once Upon a Time in Liverpool. I think this is for the younger set, but I read it as well and I enjoyed it. Let's talk a little bit about the illustrations, because they're absolutely gorgeous. Who illustrated this book for you?
They are stunning. The gentleman's name is Eric Cash, and he's a long, tall drink of Texas water, and he's brilliant. There's 3 big Beatles artists in the world. Okay. One is Georgina Flood from Dublin. The other is Shannon McDonald from New York City, I believe she's from originally, or she lives there now. And then there's Eric, and he did things for the Super Bowl, Times Square, Coca-Cola, Ragu, pop art posters, tremendous amount of commercial work. And I had given him, I was at a Beatle Fest with him, and I went to go look at his work, which was just stunning, you know. So I wanted to hand him a copy of my book, and I said, just read it when you get some off time. Just let me know what you think.
Right.
So it was a different cover at the time. It was just because I really just thought I was doing it for my friends. You know, Patty was nagging me to do the book.
Yeah, you didn't know where it was going to go.
No. So it was just kind of like in that old American typewriter font. It was black with a turquoise coloring and a pair of lips, because I wore black and turquoise when I met George.
Yes, I know you did.
So the color meant a lot to me. So he read it in one day, and when I walked by him to go out and go get Andrew and me a cup of coffee, he said, "You gotta come over here." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Are you married to that cover?" And I said, Not really. I said, "I know, you know, looking at his work and my little cheesy cover, right?" And I said, "Well, I just did it really mainly for my friends and everything. But, the story is, don't judge the book by the cover. He said,
right.
No, I didn't. He said, absolutely not. What I would like to do is, I cover for you. I can see you in that beehive. I can see you in that beehive. Do you have pictures of you? And I said, well, I really, and I know some of his work is hanging in Liverpool. A big thing called The Introduction, right in the church where Paul met George, this huge 5x6. Oh, it's stunning.
Wow.
And he's famous, so I thought, oh my God, I'd have to buy a ski mask and knock over a 7-Eleven
to
pay the guy, So I said, I would love you to do that. And thank you very much. I said, but I really couldn't, afford to have it done, He said, no, I want to do it for you. I said, excuse me?
Wow, I can't believe I'm hearing this.
I said, did you just say you wanted to do? He said, absolutely, just please, let me do it.
Wow.
The cover's got to do this book, and I can see you, just like the Hard Day's Night cover, because 64, was that Hard Day's Night period in the summer. We'll do you from here up. And he said, you don't happen to have a picture of the back of your beehive? I said, I never took a picture of the back of my head, right? I said, but it was just a French twist. You could look it up and they're just kind of, your hair's just folded over itself. So anyway, he came up with that cover. Look at this. That's what I say. Look at this now.
Right.
Seriously, look what 50 years and 60 pounds will do to a girl. But it's okay, like the corners of my mind, misty color and water memories. Watercolor memories, right? But actually, my memories are more like a big, full-blown box of neon Crayolas. You know what I'm saying? No misty watercolors. This is bright neon Crayolas. But he did that cover, and it just made such a difference, Oh,
absolutely. It pops.
It pops.
It looks like she's getting ready, or she wants to have her date with a Beatle.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what it says.
So, and the story, somebody said, you really had a date with a Beatle? I have to explain this. No. It was better, but it was better than that.
Yes. But don't give it away.
No, I won't give it away. But here's why I named it that. When my brother and his friends, the guys that I used to work with after school, my guy friends at school, all of us would get all dressed up all the time if we were going out, because in our crazy 15-year-old heads, it was like, what if you ran into George Harrison? What if you saw John Lennon? Yes, he's going to be on Frankfurt Avenue in Philadelphia.
Right,
sure,
waiting for the L.
Waiting for the L, and you're just gonna walk on by. So you better look good. But we did.
Right.
So my brother would say, "Oh, look at you! What do you got? A date with a Beatle?"
Oh.
And then my girlfriend Patty's brother Tommy would say, Tom worked with us at Frankfurt Hospital. Tom would say, "You got a date with a Beatle?" So it was, when I was thinking of a title.
It's a great title.
Yeah, it meant, again, it meant a lot to me. It was so much fun. It was so much fun.
Those were good times then.
They were. They were real, genuine.
Let's talk about Once Upon a Time in Liverpool.
Oh my goodness, yes.
So, this is about 4 young lads who happen to be named
John, Paul, George, and Ringo. And the reason that I wrote this, here's another book I didn't plan on writing, I teach. And sometimes the kids really get to like you if you're lucky. And I got very lucky. And so they want to know what books I was reading when I was a kid, what music I was listening to, 800 years ago when I was a teenager. So, I talk about the Beatles, and one girl stood up and she said to me, I know why the Beatles are still popular.
And why is that?
And that's what I said. And I said, how old are you, MK? And she said, 15. And then I was really interested because she was exactly the same age that I was.
Yeah.
So anyway, she said, well, they're white, they're English, and they were rich.
Oh.
And as you can probably tell, I'm never at a loss for words here, right? I must have looked like I had 10 shots of Novocaine.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Right.
And I'm like,
what?
White? Rich? So I'm thinking, my God, none of these guys, well, John did when he moved to his Aunt Mimi, but none of these guys had indoor plumbing, for God's sake. And Paul was raised by a single dad. His mom died of breast cancer. John never really had a relationship with his dad. His mother got killed.
Right.
Ringo never, ever, ever knew his father. He went to 4th grade. It was a single mom. Elsie worked as a barmaid. The Harrisons had a normal family, but I've been in their house. I mean, like this. No wonder the Harrisons were all thin. They had to be to get in the front door.
Wow.
It was like this big. It was just 2 up and 2 down.
Right.
Tiny, tiny, you know?
Right. So the perception is so off here.
Yeah, and then when I told the kids this, you know, a kid named Damon stood up and said, then how come they're the biggest band ever? How come? Because they just figured these are children who their parents were poor, their grandparents were poor, so I'm going to be poor unless I, you know, borrow my ski mask and knock over those 7-Elevens I was talking about. And they don't feel like there's much hope. And, you know, when you're 15 and all the girls just want to fit in, all the guys just want to fit in.
Right.
And I thought about it on the way home, and I pulled the car over and I said, there's a book in here that's needed. And I just thought, these kids feel like you start someplace, this is where you end up. And I thought, it's not where you start, it's how you finish. It's how you finish. And about fitting in, the thing that I learned most about the Beatles, and I wanted to fit in when I was 15 years old. Why not? Right. Why not? But fitting in is born out of fear, need, loneliness.
Yes.
But they didn't need each other. They didn't care if they fit in. They just belonged together. They just knew they belonged together. And by belonging, it's born out of love and kinship, brotherhood, you know. There's a bond there that's not needy, you know. And so I finally, you know, got that in my head and realized what it was, and I thought, I have to get this message out there to let these kids know that it's not where you start that counts, it's how you finish. And it made a tremendous impact. And when I told Eric the story, of course, my kids, I'll be a great grandmom come April.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you very much. I'm thrilled to death. But Eric still has young children.
Right.
So when I told him the idea that I wanted, and he was right on it.
Right.
So again, this magnificent artwork, which is really kind of very Rockwellian, don't you think?
Yeah, and I just... Yeah, definitely, and
beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. The images are just, the illustrations are just gorgeous, and it really does look like them too.
Yeah,
it really does.
Yeah,
stunning. Pretty amazing. Judy's books have allowed her to travel the world. Where have you been recently?
Well, actually, I just came back in November and December. I was on the West Coast. I was in California, in West LA and Santa Monica, and I taught out there and with some of my humane education books, but mainly with Once Upon a Time in Liverpool. And I was in Copenhagen and Holland. I was in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands.
Yes.
And Amsterdam in April and May. I was in Germany and France as well. And it's just amazing, amazing that children who don't even speak the language can sing a Beatles song, and they're 8 years old. Wow. I mean, you know,
that is pretty fantastic when you think about it.
It is, and they all need that positive message. I mean, that book, I love this book for what it does to children, and even those kids who are really gifted to have a good life and two parents and not worrying if the lights are going to stay on.
Right, if there's food on the table.
If there's food for dinner, enough to go around. Even those who are pretty well off, you know, there's always something that's going to go wrong. Nobody's got it perfect, even, you know, still.
Especially in those teenage years, too.
True. Truly, truly, that's right. But it works for everybody. I've talked to children who have absolutely nothing, who've been totally inspired, and children who, you know, are driving to school in a BMW, and I've got a car that I have affectionately called the Hobo Death Machine, okay? And they're going to schools in their 60s, you know, and will say to me, I feel like I can make a difference.
That's great. That's exactly what you want. It's just
wonderful.
Yeah.
I am stoked, and I just think, what a gift that they gave me that I can pay it forward to somebody else. I mean, it was worth every line I ever stood in to get a ticket, it was worth every hour I had to work for $1.10
Right.
or my 50 cents an hour babysitting
Yeah.
to go buy an album, to feel that constant joy, to see how they grew and changed and moved and made a huge difference. And
Right.
of course I'm, like this much of a difference, and they made this much of a difference.
No,
but,
you're making a pretty big difference
but
internationally.
one child per school, and I'm just thrilled because they'll pay it forward as well. So I'm just very, very grateful that I had and did all this without an agent.
Mm-hmm.
And
all on your own.
Oh, brother,
It's pretty amazing.
I'm like I remember when I told you I'm like a one-man band.
Sure.
I sleep with the cymbals in between my knees. I really do. I swear to you. But it's not easy, but it's still fun. So that's what I get out of it. I get fun, joy, satisfaction. It warms my heart every day when I get fan mail from children.
That's fun.
I get fan mail and I get thank you notes from their parents.
And
now
their
I don't
teachers,
have.
I'm sure.
Now I don't have to worry where my son is because I can hear him banging away on the drums in the basement.
You created some musicians.
But still, they don't have. They have a purpose. There's
a reason now.
There is a reason.
Well, speaking of fun,
Yeah.
I know that you just did something fun in New York City
Woo!
a couple of days ago.
I did Saturday and Sunday. I got invited to a filming of the sort of like a celebration
An
event.
anniversary celebration.
For the 50th. 50.
Right.
Geez.
The 50th anniversary.
Of the Beatles' arrival in America. And then so I said, wow, just imagine when I'm 115, you can film me for the 100th. I'm
Right.
looking forward to it, But they asked me to come back. I thought I was just going to be there Saturday, and they asked me to come back on Sunday, but
That's great.
it was like one big family. You've got families that don't love each other like Beatle fans do.
Right.
You were at Shea Stadium. I was over second base. They looked like this big, but I didn't care.
But you were there.
But I was there. And then they didn't have the big screens. You could be way back at Yankee Stadium and see Paul McCartney. Huge.
Oh, now you can.
Now you can. But it was happy. It was joyful. We played their music. We sang songs. We were dancing. We were getting interviewed.
Right.
And this wonderful Italian director was just like loving me. I couldn't do anything wrong. It was just a nice switch for a change with me. And
nice switch from this, where she was a bad girl.
Yeah, and I was a bad girl. A naughty, naughty gal.
That's right.
But it was just so much fun. So not only, are we,
all the camaraderie and everything.
it was fabulous. Everything just worked. It was still.
And you have another fun event you're attending in a couple of weeks, which is Beatle Fest.
Oh, good heaven!
Yeah.
Yes, and that film that they're putting together, it's going to be a couple things. I think it's going to be a trailer for movies, maybe, and it's going to premiere as some sort of film at Beatles Fest, and I'm going to be speaking there about my crazy day, because really it's all about the 50th anniversary, and that book is it. It's 1964 from soup to nuts, and then I'll get to talk about this book and then about my new book called The Flower Children, which was also basically
a 60s book.
A 60s book, and the girls on the cover look like they're walking across Abbey Road. So again,
you tied some Beatles stuff into it.
It was my tribute again to the Beatles, who taught me how to pay it forward. So again, just going in the right direction.
I'd like to just read one little bit in here. Judith has dedicated this book to John, Paul, George, and Ringo, and dreamers everywhere. We should all continue to dream.
Yes, you may say we're a dreamer, but we're not the only ones.
That's right. Judy, thanks so much for being here today. It was so wonderful to have you on the show. I hope to have you back again.
I hope I'm back. I can't wait. I'm jazzed. Thank you. Peace and love.
This is Charlene Chamberlain for Front Row. Thanks for watching.
Well,